Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Doodle Robot, and today we're going to look at, it's kind of a viewer request, I've had it a couple times, how to color busy pages. Things with lots of designs in them and Zendoodly stuff like that. So, since I was sitting here working on this book, Garden Enchantments, I was working on the B page here. I thought it was a good time to maybe discuss that. So we'll kind of look at different ones and talk about strategies on how to approach it. So I have a good one here that's underway, which is typical of how I start a page. We'll move those out of the way. So for something like this, this is Curious Creatures, Millie Murata. I probably more than 9 times out of 10, 99% of the time, I'm going to start with the background, or what I perceive to be the background. In this case, these are giant squids, and I will sometimes look at the colors of things. In the case of the giant squids, I did look at the colors of giant squids, real giant squids, and I'm like, yeah, I don't really like this color. So I'm just going to go totally fantastic, fantasy, and do them whatever color I want. So on this particular page, I was looking, I had a plan for some other color, and then I was looking through my colored pencils. The chart I have at the beginning here of my colored pencils. Here, kind of getting an overview of my Prismacolors. That's my go-to pencil. And I'm like, oh, reds. I want to do reds. Hardly ever do a red background. I mean, when does that come into play? Not very often. So I picked out some reds that I don't use a lot. Like, I tend to use Crimson Lake, Scarlet Lake, Poppy, and I skip all those other reds. So I decided to use Crimson Red, Permanent Red, and Carmine Red, because they're reds I don't use very often. And so sometimes my decisions are made that way, like a color I don't use very often. Sometimes it's because that's the color of the sky, or that's the color of plants, or whatever. It just depends, you know, on my strategy at the time. So I picked out some reds that I like, and as you can see, these are two squids tangled together. I think they're mirror images. So naturally I'm going to do the background so I can figure out where the squid stuff is. And it's just easier because then there's no conflict with the background. Sometimes people do the foreground colors and they've used every color that they have, and then they don't know what to do the background. So if you do the background first, you can kind of avoid that problem. In the instances where I don't do the background first, it's because I'm trying to, like in a mythographic book where things are hard to discern what they are, I might do the foreground first just so I can figure out where it's at. You all know what I'm talking about, right? Or sometimes in the case of people, I want to do the people first so that then I can make a background that complements the people, and then I would do the other stuff in the picture, if that makes sense. So generally, like I said, you know, 99 times out of 100, I'm probably going to start with the background unless conditions are such that I need to start with something else. So, this is Color Yourself to Tranquility. This is the one with trees. Melissa Laney. I have an undone one that we'll talk about, but I have a done one here, so I'll tell you my thinking. And it's got, some people would call it a lot of Zendoodly stuff. I think this is more intentional design. I made a whole video about that one time, Zendoodle versus intentional design. Like, everything relates to, the design relates to what the image is. So we've got the tree components here, the designs in the tree, and those are because that's kind of what trees look like. Now, some people can ignore that. Sometimes I do ignore that and just color it what I want. Sometimes, in this case, I didn't want to do that. I wanted to color all the different components because it's my coloring book and I can do what I want. But, so the background, I started with thinking about, okay, I know the tree in this case is going to be brown. I'm coloring it kind of, traditional colors. Tree's going to be some kind of brown. The leaves on the tree, this is a bonsai tree, so they're going to be some kind of greens. And I did want the greens to correlate a little bit with the water so you can see some of the same blues in the tree there. So there's some correlation, and of course it's the focal point, so I wanted to have some yellow there so it pops. So I wanted to make the background something that's going to pop, and I know I added a big ball sun there. Moon, sun, I think it's kind of a setting sun. I think of this as kind of a setting sunset here. In traditional Japanese art, they'll often have a red sphere for the sun or moon, whatever they're doing. I thought about that. I thought that's going to make the tree pop. That's going to make the leaves on the tree pop. I want some of the colors from the tree in the ocean. I want similar colors down here. These same colors are ground colors. And then the purples are the rocks, the mountain, and the clouds. So we have some symmetry. I never use one thing just once. I try to scatter it around multiple times. Okay, these purple colors are lighter than these purple colors, but basically they're the same. All right, so that was kind of my strategy towards that. But I did think about all the components here, and I think, I'm pretty sure I painted the background, or colored the background first. That's Prismacolor. Same thing with this tree here. Maybe, if we can find it. There we go. It was a rainy day, and I wanted to use just a different color than I normally use. In the background, I was going to go with gray, but then I found a nice blue-gray, purpley color that I liked. And I just started with that. I didn't have any other plans for the page. And as I was doing the Prismacolor background there, I'm like, I kind of want these to be pale and muted, so kind of a muted pastel colors, which is what I went with. I did change the yellow here of this tree. What I had there first didn't work, so I covered it up with gel pen. I know that the trees are going to be brown. I know that the dirt is brown. I'm probably going to make this green. It's raining, so maybe this is a green kind of place. Maybe pastel greens, or maybe more of these colors here might go here. I haven't decided yet. We will see how that plays out in the future. And I want to pull this brown up here, but I think it's just going to be in these little designs that the artist has drawn here, and the trees will be lighter. But I don't want to leave just the brown here. Now I do want, this is an intense color down here, the brown, and I want to balance that up here. These are stormy clouds, so I want to balance that. But I also want to pull in some more of this color or something close to this color up here. So I'm going to have to find something that kind of balances the dark of this color up here, and yet something that harkens in the same color palette here. So that'll be a trick for me to find when I color that. So that's kind of the strategy I have approaching this page. And these are obviously not realistic. These are just abstract or conceptual, whatever you'd like to call them. That's how I kind of approach a conceptual page. All right, let's look at the Occult and Folklore book. Now for this very, very busy wallpaper page, again, I looked at some, this is based on a Rococo wallpaper, sorry. I looked at that. They tend to be, there's a lot of gold in them. They tend to be pinks and, well, they come in every color, but, I was looking, I'm like, first I wanted to go with some blue. They didn't really come in that, but then again, I looked at my pencils and I'm like, oh, here's some colors I don't really use. It's kind of muted colors of the time, and I can add poppy stuff on top of it. So I chose two distinct Prismacolors that are in the same colorway. One's kind of lighter, one's kind of darker, to go with the design here that's been drawn, just to differentiate those two designs. And then I'm going with a very analogous color scheme. So an analogous color scheme are color schemes that are right next to each other on the color wheel. So this is going to be all kind of pinks and purples, basically. And I'm using a variety of water-based markers, gel pens, Prismacolors, things like that. All right, so I've decided kind of on an analogous color scheme there. I'm going to decide what's going to pop. Obviously, this is popping off a lot, but this should be something that pops as well. And I think that too, the little Medusa head or whatever that is. Now, for a different one in this book, this has a busy, very folk arty vibe to it, yet I would say not Zendoodly, more folk art, more intentional design here. I strayed a little bit, but my initial idea for this page, I kind of saw her in blue, and I wanted to go with the printing colors of cyan, magenta, sort of, and yellow, although this became not yellow, it became my favorite green color. So I went with that. And then, of course, I thought that would look nice with the traditional gold of the medieval art, you know, the illuminated persons there. This is a play on that. Obviously, crazy lady with cat instead of Madonna and child. So, and then just from there, I just like to play with my gel pens lately, so I'm adding gel pens in a similar colorway to all of the different patterns that are there. I'm thinking up here, you know, there's already quite a bit of color in it, and there will be more, so I think I'm probably going to go with blue and the green here, just to have some balance there. Something will probably be gold in there, the same gold. So that's how I approach that. And then it's just a matter of coloring all the little doodads. So all the little doodads here in this very busy cat print that she's wearing will be shades of blue, basically. Okay. I don't know what color the cat will be. I don't know what color her hair will be yet, but we will see in the future as it evolves. All right. So in Garden Enchantments, like I said, I was working on the bee page here, and my color choices just stem from what an actual honeycomb colors are. So I noticed, but you know, I don't have to, this is very abstracted, really abstracted. Lots of this probably is more Zendoodly than intentional design. I noticed that on the honeycombs, that this area of the honeycomb is a little bit lighter in photos of honeycombs, and the inside of the honeycomb is a little bit darker, so I just picked the colors that are the honeycombs, making it lighter out here, maybe a little more broad range of colors, just so I can play with all those interesting designs that are there. And then I just put them on in any old way, whatever strikes my fancy for each different little honeycomb section. But it's the same 6 colors here and the same 2 colors here. This is a modeled. I didn't want it to be all the same, although I could have gone with that. But I chose just to model it so it'd be a little more interesting in the end. Now, when I looked at the honeycombs, I'm thinking yellows and oranges, a little bit into the browns. What's going to pop against that? And I know that there's such a thing as blue bees, so blue and yellow are complementary colors, so I'm like, these are going to be blue bees. And they're probably going to be, I'm looking at the colors over here where it's pretty dark, probably heavy use of black and blue for the bees, because I want them to come off the page of the honeycomb, because it's a little bit dark. So that was my thinking there, more of a complementary color scheme, loosely complementary. I don't get stuck in, you know, my color schemes too much, but they're just a jumping off point, a starting point. And so this one was based on nature colors. The other one in this book, this artist draws quite loosely, sloppily, I would say. I like it. I like that, you know, it's not perfect. It's like it's got that very hand-drawn look to it, but they're a bit careless. There's a lot of stuff I have to fill in and add and finish off and stuff. But this one started with the sky. I just wanted a nice, bright blue sky. I kind of chose, again, I don't know. I must be in a mood to choose colors that I don't often use. But if you have like a single background, that's a good place to use a color maybe you don't often use. Not one of the blues I often use, and oftentimes I'll have a fade or something like that in the background. Although here it's so busy, I'm just like, no, I'm not going to do that. Now for the pots, I'm going to go with terracotta colors here. So I'll pick out, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 terracotta colors, browns, fairly dark. Then that is going to, once those are colored, I will determine how I want to do the ground in relation to those pots. Probably I want the ground to be a little lighter. I'm envisioning pretty dark terracotta pots, so probably the ground will be a little bit lighter. Maybe even green with lots of almost like a mossy ground. Maybe we will see. I don't know because I've got to do the pots first. I know the picket fence is going to be kind of like a whitewashed picket fence, so it's going to be kind of white and off-white. And then everything else will be greens and, you know, flower colors. I don't yet know what these little, whatever those are, flower fairies or something. I'm not sure what they are. These little tiny flower people. I don't know what they're going to be yet, but, you know, some colors that they pop off. So this is just a dance between, this is unknown. Like I said, I'm going to color these pots, and then I'm going to make decisions from there on what the ground should be. And we'll see. We'll see how it turns out. So that one's kind of a mystery. No color scheme involved there, just it's driven by what the colors of things are in that particular case. Let's see. And then I have some done ones, so we can look at done ones, and I'll talk about my choices there. I had a great time in Tropical World. And you know, I like Zendoodly or very busy stuff a little bit, but you know, your tastes change as you color more. Like when I first started coloring, I didn't want anything to do with color by number, and that's still sort of the case. I'm considering a few. I have one color by number. I didn't like mandalas, but now I like mandalas, and now I kind of like this kind of coloring. It's very relaxing. It's kind of like my mind likes a puzzle, and so this is a puzzle. And you can either go with what things are real, you know, traditionally colored in real life, or you can just be totally fantasy about it. And I have found that, you know, I moved, and when I moved, things changed, and I suddenly started coloring a bit differently. I started approaching it a little bit differently. I can still go back to the way I approached it before, but it just, you know, things happen in life and new possibilities open up. So I was, you know, looking at Milli Murata in a store, and I bought one, and then I started coloring it. That's one of the few pieces that I had in my house, coloring books that I had in my house to color. And I'm like, you know what, I'm going to try this. So here, I looked up the color of flamingos and was inspired by that, but didn't necessarily want to stick to, I mean, she's drawn all these designs in there. So I didn't necessarily want to stick to the way that flamingos are traditionally colored in reality, but I wanted that to be my jumping off point as to how I colored it. So when I look at the composition of this picture, I notice that there's this big space here and this big space here, and I kind of want this to balance. Like one of these, I think that this, as like their necks are more kind of that shrimpy color, and then their bodies get lighter, I believe is what I was looking in the photos of flamingos. And I'm like, okay. And I could see this being lighter, but I wanted to balance it with the eye here. I thought that gave a pretty good composition. It's almost a triangle composition, which is very nice to the eye. So This part of the beak was black. I stuck with that. There's lots of shiny stuff on here. Again, this is paint and gel pens and acrylic paint markers, I think. I don't think there's any colored pencils on this. But that was how I decided on my color scheme for the flamingos. And the background I wanted to be in the colorway but different for the flamingos in this case. And that was painted. Originally there were all these like leaves and stuff in the background. I had tediously painted around all of those leaves, but when I got done painting, I'm like, ooh, I don't like that. And it's going to conflict with my main focal points. So I'm just going to paint those out with the paint that I already had mixed. I did go back and add some silhouetted leaf shapes from a stencil that I had, because this was the only black on the page. Well, that and their little eyeball. I'm like, oh, that's distracting. We need some more black to make it work in my mind. So that was my thinking on there. I just picked my various watercolor markers and gel pens, acrylic markers, and I had a palette and went to town. I knew that, I wanted these to be light, and the rest was going to be in the flamingo colorway. So that is how I approached that page. And there's a lot of this is just straight coloring. There's no blending or anything. It's just block coloring. It's just about the design and the puzzle in my mind. It's very relaxing to do, because you're not worried about making something look realistic or anything like that. All right, the bat page here. Again, in this case, I was looking at it and I'm like, well, bats are usually black, and I always think of when something is black, the highlight color could be purple or it could be blue. So in this case, that kind of inspired me to have kind of a dusk background, and it's mottled. I think there are 3 colors, kind of yellow to orange here in the background. I was thinking it's dusk right before they wake up. Like, this guy's still sleeping. He's sort of awake. He's getting ready to start to fly here. So that's what I looked at. And so I'm thinking dusk, black and purple or black and blue. And then I'm like, okay, we're going to go for one of the triad colors. So we got purple, orange, and green. Secondary colors, it's a triad color. So, I don't want to be boring. I don't want everything on there to be the same color green. So I used various Inktense bases here. Inktense and water-based markers, I think, on top. Here I use Prismacolors and gel pens and acrylic markers, probably. There are 2 different schemes. There's a color scheme for the bats themselves and their skin. And then there's a slightly different, you can tell a little bit, slightly different color scheme for their wings. Their wings are more shiny colors in their wings. And we have this guy still bundled up. He's less bundled up. Like I said, he looks like he's getting ready to fly, to start out for the night, to catch his little bugs and stuff that he's going to eat. So that was based on a triadic scheme, secondary colors, was my thinking there. And that was just by looking at the page that I came up with that. And then we have this one, which is more of a complementary color scheme. I knew that these grasses were going to be, various shades of green. I, of course, started with the background, as usual, and these are very busy. Very, very busy. So I just went with a solid background. I could have done a fade if I'd wanted to, but it's like, there's so much busyness going on here. Do we really need to do that? I don't think we really need to do that in this case. These are all like individual little mandalas. And then, I just went with, yellow greens to blue greens and greens in between there. And I knew that, to make it unified, I want all the bugs to be something. And so green and red are complementary colors. So that's how we ended up with kind of green and pink. When approaching the blades of grass, there were usually very similar ones. And so for each similar one, I just made it the same color scheme. And then for the next similar one, I made it the same color scheme. And that's how the individual blades of grass were decided. So like got like color schemes in the overall broad color scheme that I was going for. So those are some tips on my thinking and my process of how I approach a very busy, be it intentional design or kind of Zen Doodly design pages. I'm loving that right now. Like my brain is just in its happy place right now doing that. I mean, I imagine at some point that will change. But you know, right now it's working for me, so I'm going with that. I love the abstract nature of it. I love the puzzle of trying to put the pieces together and make it look not necessarily realistic by any stretch of the imagination, but interesting to look at with good composition. So that's my answer to the request on how to approach a complicated page. Hopefully that helps. If you have any further questions, put them in the comments, or if you have an idea on how to approach a complex page, put it in the comments so that we can all learn from the same video here. All right, I thank you for joining me. I appreciate your time. I hope you have a wonderful day. Live long and prosper. Bye-bye.